What's up, everybody? It's the day after Labor Day, and what better time for me and Big Mike Cox? He's not Edgar Fletcher, but 10 points if you know who Edgar Fletcher even is, you young whippersnappers out there. Are you going to have a different one every time now, Mike?
I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go into the Rolodex of names and come out after somebody different every time, bro. Just keep it fresh.
John Aranita. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd get you on that one. No? Okay. John Hansen could get us both. He'll mention somebody from like 1951 or something.
Dale Ripplinger.
So we're going to get into the topic, but I want to let you guys know a week from tomorrow, starting up a whole new podcast called the Meathead Podcast. Your anchors are going to be myself and Big Mike Cox. It's going to be a revolving cast of notables, pros, all kinds of cool people we're going to have on. It's going to be that panel thing where we probably go off topic 99% of the time and talk about, I don't know, dildos and blunts and who knows. God only knows. We're going to be in for a bumpy ride, but let's get into this topic.
Yes.
Because as grumpy old men, Mike's 51, right?
52 in 4 weeks.
Okay, so I'll be 56 in less than 3 weeks. So let's say we've been around for a long time.
Yes.
When we were coming up, not only did no one ask about the cycles of the pros, but the pros didn't even admit to being on drugs. It was the Weeder supplements. And I naively, when I was a kid, I didn't know they were on. I didn't know what steroids were. I'm like, wow, these Weeder protein powder mass gainers must be really cool. We've come full circle now, where people are very, very. I hate this word, but I have to use it. Transparent.
Very.
They're very open, talking about the gear they use and the cycles, to the point where, unless now, if you don't come out and say I'm using 5 grams of this on top of 3 grams of that, and 20 IUs of growth a day, if it's not outrageous, you're going to be called a liar. Mm-hmm. Everyone assumes that all the pros use these huge doses, and that's the way they look. So how crazy does that drive you as someone who's been around and knows the difference between drugs, genetics, and all these things?
And it's exactly what you said, bro. Like, people don't realize that not just in bodybuilding, but in every sport, it's the genetic elite, right? You don't see very many guys our height playing in the NBA, do you? No. Or in the NFL, right? Or even people, baseball players are about 6 foot tall, 6'2".
Yeah.
And in bodybuilding, it's the ultimate genetic sport. These guys are the genetic elite. When you see a pro, like Sean Ray, Eddie Robinson, Jay Cutler, they were built like men as teenagers, bro. Yeah. Like, they were grown. Eddie Robinson was a grown-ass man, right? That what was the Junior USA with him and Sean were going at it. They look like the same pros, but just smaller. So it doesn't matter what they take. You could have given me Dorian Yates' exact cycle. I would have not looked like Dorian Yates, right? Perfect example. There's a guy in our gym in Toledo. His name was Lamar Goodwin. This dude, he looked like Quentin, exactly like Quentin. Right, same structure. He didn't train very heavy, but he just took a little bit of growth, like maybe like 1 IU, 500 units of test. He blew up, and we all saw him because we knew he was broke anyway. We knew he was getting, because we were all getting the same shit from the same guy. Yeah. And it just goes to show you that just a little bit of something to this guy makes a huge difference. And another friend of mine, he loved the Sush Ready Jacks, but he just got pimples and strong shoulders.
Yeah.
That's it, right? So it doesn't matter what they take. It doesn't matter what I take or what you take. We're not going to look like these guys, man. Like, training, but 2 rounds, it's just everything is so drug. Without food and rest, drugs don't work, right? And like you said earlier, back in when we started, it was that natural bodybuilding push was pretty big with Mike Ashley, John Paul Guillaume. They tested the world championships. Joe and Ben wanted that whole Olympic recognition thing. And Ron, I took Dynamic Body Shaper because Bob Parrish took it. Yeah. Nobody talked about steroids, bro. Like, it didn't even cross our minds at 15, 16. But there was no transparency because, too, it's a Schedule 3 drug. It's a felony.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's a book called Legal Muscle that Rick Collins wrote that I read. They didn't write it. I read it years ago, and there were a lot of cases in there that he took on where they were trying to put guys away for years and years for just stuff for personal use. These weren't steroid dealers. They would bust the guys. They would, get a search warrant, go into a bodybuilder's house, and we're like, bodybuilders are like hoarders with steroids, especially back in the day. If you could get, things are hard to come by. So if somebody had a bunch of Primobolan or whatever, and it might not come around again, you'd buy 10, 20 bottles if you could afford it.
That's so true.
And, guys would have like a war chest. It wasn't to sell, but
No.
to a federal agent or a cop or whatever, go, oh my God, look at this big drug dealer here. Oh my God, he's got 1,000 tablets of Dianabol. Oh no, he's a major steroid dealer. They don't know. This is for his next like 2 or 3 cycles. So these guys were looking at, he got most of them off. Thank God. He's an amazing lawyer, but they were trying to put some of these guys away for 20, 40, 50 years for like personal amounts of steroids.
And dude, Duran, like there were times where I had like 6 or 7 bottles of test because it was $25, $30. So I'm like, well, let me just go grab a bunch, and I got everything I got for a year. Right now, I wasn't getting rid of it, but it was just you just had it. Hey, let me get some Novadex. Let me just hold that for a little while. I got a little bit of T3. Just keep it to the side, but it wasn't going out the door, right? And one of the biggest fears was just getting popped because we all know guys that got popped. I know a guy that did 10. He got popped 3 times. If I did 10 years, right? Yeah, he was just. I mean, he may. I don't want to say anything else, but it's just that fear was there because even in college, man, some dudes got in trouble, and I know guys that got back when things were a little different with the mail. Don't want to incriminate anything, but people got letters. Hey, man, we got something at the post office for you.
I got one.
Bro, and that's a scary feeling because they're watching. I had a friend of mine who got in some serious trouble, and he was telling me that they knew everything about all of us. They saw our text messages. They knew everything about us. And fun, real quick, a week before he got in trouble, we were partying, and I had a little panic attack, obviously from, whatever.
Yeah.
And the ambulance came. And Ron, I swear to God, it wasn't the ambulance. Looking back on it, I swear to God that was the feds because 1 week later, they broke his door down.
Wow.
So it's just you just don't know, man. And like you think some certain people may be close to you, may not snitch. But that's why when I see people now, they're so transparent. It blows my mind.
Yeah. It's like, dude, come get me. Here I am.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
You're putting it on the internet. Like, granted, there's a lot of other things in the world that are crazy and that's going on, right? But it just takes one agent. You know what I mean? That's all it takes. So be safe, guys.
Or it just takes one person who doesn't like you for whatever reason to call up, hey, FBI, there's this guy on the internet and he's talking about steroids and kids are watching this. And, a lot of people lose their YouTube channels for stuff like that. But that sucks too. But it's not the same as someone knocking on your door with a search warrant. And we're going to go through your place. We're going to turn your place inside out and find all your drugs. So anyway, getting back to the main topic, I feel that the real reason people want to believe it's all drugs and that mega doses are why these guys look like that is because nobody wants to admit that they can't achieve their goals because you weren't born to the right, you didn't pick the right parents. And that's what it comes down to. You and I have both seen plenty of guys. There's these rare cases of guys who they just got very lucky.
Yeah.
I've seen guys go from just starting to train within a year, they're like the biggest guy in the gym. It's not, and these are gyms with plenty of people on gear. It's not like they're on special gear or more gear than anyone else. They were just meant to look like that. And it sucks for people to think, oh no, I can't. It's so much easier to just say, well, if it's because he's on drugs or he's on more drugs than me or he's on better drugs than me.
Or if I took what he took, I would look just like that. Right. Or even you hear guys like, well, if I took what you took, I'd look like that. But it's not. Michael Lockett was in the gym in Cleveland years ago, and you just saw it. Right. And he didn't look like he I don't know what he took, but he had just that. He still looked the same, low body fat, but it's round muscle, but smaller. Yeah. And certain guys, and Ron, honestly, it's hard to admit that some guys are better than you are. Right. In this sport, it's ego driven. So it's hard to admit that if I take 500 mg of sauce and this guy takes 500 mg of sauce, and he puts on 25 pounds and I put on 10 pounds, he's got to be doing something that I'm not doing.
Right.
And that's what it's just ego, right? And as a soon to be 52-year-old man, I can admit that a lot of that's ego. But this is the sport for the genetic elite. And there's so many pro cards now, we don't got to get into that, but the genetic cream rises to the top, right? We've seen all those guys at Tampa that were like, I don't know. But then we see Urs in Classic a couple of years ago, we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's hard to admit that, man. And sometimes it makes you walk away from the sport, Ron, when you realize that you're gassing, and it's not meant to be. Knowing that it's not meant to be in this sport is really hard. It's hard to just say, shit, I don't got the genetics for it. And it may be 30 years after you start, it may be 5, but you're going to get 99% of us are going to come to a point where it's like, we don't got the genes for this. And we got to admit it.
You know, people said, why don't you show Mike? Because Mike actually was a much better bodybuilder than me, and I have no problem admitting that. So this is what's this, a teenage you over here?
That is the 1996 Mr. Ohio where I won my class.
Wow. How old are you there?
22.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that back.
20. That was 2001. Battle of Champions in Dayton, Ohio. My friend's pizza joint got broken into at that show.
So I'm guessing you were still natural here?
No, actually, Ron, that was 250 mgs of tests with some T3 and a little bit of EQ.
So someone's going to say, liar, liar.
People don't realize, Ron, is that with me during that kind of era of from 98 to 01, I spent more on new than I did on gear. So that's just me. That's just being honest. But that is my last show 10 years ago.
Wow.
2015 in Lakeland. I won the Open overall and the Masters overall over 40.
So like 5'6", and we were light heavy or heavy here?
I went from 250 to 192.
Woo. Good Lord.
Yeah, I thought I was big and lean. I was just fat and bloated.
Well, here you were big and lean. I mean, that's a big 192 right there.
Yeah, that was very extreme stuff, Ron.
Wow.
Very like 2 or 3 hours of cardio, too much T3. But you know, dude, I loved being on stage. I didn't love what I had to do to get there, but for me, the posing and the pro tan and just seeing those dudes eyeing dudes up backstage, bro. But again, Ron, it's just I didn't feel I didn't want to take what I needed to do to get to that level. And also, bro, I knew that with my addictive personality, any type of success, I would have been Craig Titus. I couldn't admit that back then, but now I realize that. I think subconsciously, that's kind of why I self-sabotaged. Yeah. Because I knew that, like, bro, my focus was here for a show, after a show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
people are going to look at that picture right here and say, that's 2 to 4 grams of tests, a gram or 2 of tren, a gram of EQ, 20 IUs of growth. They're going to make assumptions now. People think they can honestly look at someone's physique and tell you what their cycle is. I don't know if you remember 10 years, but do you have a rough idea how much you were on for this show?
I know the last 6 weeks, it was like just some maybe 500 minutes of tests and some Winstrol with some T3. I love T3, bro. I love T3.
For 500 milligrams of test a week, and the Winstrol,
Winstrol 50 mgs every other day was the injectable kind, which sucked.
Oh, okay. That's only.
But I couldn't afford shit. I couldn't afford to take more. I wish I could have did fucking a gram of test and a gram of tren and some growth, but I was broke all the time. But it's just I knew I didn't need a lot. That was
earlier, huh? Younger.
Yeah, that was 2000. That was 2001. Oh God, I don't remember. Right? Was it 2001? I didn't win. I won my class, but again, that was, and again, I didn't know shit, Ron. That was the early was Primobolan, Deca, and Anavar.
Wow.
Like
total gram. Were you going over like 2 grams or not even close to
No, God no, dude. I went over a gram like twice, dude. Like I've never when people would tell me what they're taking, I would be like, holy shit, really? It's just I just didn't need to do that. Right. I just knew I kind of had a sweet spot
Yeah.
of what to take. Now I wasn't like a pro, but like I was able to put on some decent size. And for me, all season was just maybe like 500 megs of test, a little bit of D-ball,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of Deca. But never, never, maybe 500, 750 kind of was my like max. I try to keep it like just 500 a week, bro. That's all I really needed.
Yeah. See, that's what people don't understand. I mean, I've seen the posts from guys saying I'm on it. You know, they'll list everything. They love to tell you exactly what they're on, like it's a badge of honor now. And I see guys that are on anywhere from 3 to 5 grams a week of gear, plus a bunch of peptides, plus 10 to 20 IUs of growth and insulin, and they don't look. A lot of them don't look much better than a good natural competitor.
No,
I mean,
no.
like, wow, what a waste of drugs, and they don't understand. If you don't have the genetics, all the drugs in the world, you're never going to look like.
No.
They honestly think if they use what Nick Walker used or Derek Lundstedt used, they would look just like Nick Walker. And they love to use that picture of Nick from his first show when he was natural and like way over dieted and say, see, he had terrible genetics, but he took a bunch of shit and now look at him. But I say, why don't you look like that? Or go ahead and take all that stuff. Let's see if you look like that. And this is the comeback. Well, I'm not willing to take all that. Or they say, I can't afford that much, or I can't get that stuff. So, you know, excuses are like assholes, and everyone's got an asshole. So,
yeah.
I mean,
but Ron, listen, let me say this. If I could have done more, trust me, I would have loved, bro, to pound a gram of this, a gram of that, just to kind of see. You know, even all season when you put a little bit of like insulin there and kind of fill out, or a little bit 850 and kind of get that kind of bubbly feeling. But you just have to know your sweet spot, man. And you're not gonna look like Nick no matter what you do, bro. Nick Walker is a genetic elite. He's a freak show. They're just the best of the best.
Yeah. I mean, I took a lot more drugs than you. I would go up for like contest prep. I would go up to, I'm sure I hit 3 grams at least a couple times. I wouldn't use the growth. But the point is, I didn't look like this. I didn't look like you. You know, my genetics are a tiny bit better than average. Yours are a couple notches above mine. And then you get the pros who are at the very high end of the genetics. So if it's the painful reality is you're going to be limited. You can get bigger up to a point, but not everyone. In fact, most people can't get huge, like pro bodybuilder huge, no matter what you do. It's just not in the card. Just like athletic ability, like you said, you're an actual sports fan. You watch college football, you watch basketball. You know that these people, there's no drug in the world. There's nothing that can make the average kid, average Pop Warner kid in the country, some superstar Heisman Trophy winner.
No,
if he doesn't have the talent, he has to have an extraordinary amount of talent to begin with,
and be built just right. Like the muscle insertions have to be right, the leg length, everything has to be, like you said, you got to pick the right parents, man. Like you just have to. Unfortunately, it's the genetic lottery, and like a lot of us lost. Like on college football, the 1% make it to the NFL. There's like 120 kids on a team, right, on a roster in college. Maybe like 30 play consistently. So, you know, you got to know what you're working with. And in bodybuilding, think about how many guys go to nationals every year, right?
Yep.
How many people go, and how many like don't place, but year after year. And that you have to know going to nationals too, year after year, you got to get to a point, man, where you're like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you've been to the national level. I've only been to the universe, which isn't as tough. You went to the USA, which is very, very tough. And you were there when it was super, super competitive. Like your middleweight class had like 50 guys, right?
Dude, it was Stephen Cantone, Tito Raymond, Mark Dugdale, Craig Santiago. It was when you go to in that 0.2 round, that's when you kind of know the genetic limitations. When I walked into that weigh-in and I was the tallest guy, right?
Yeah.
I kind of knew like, oh shit. Like this is some next level shit, right? You're looking around and Jason Archer's on the floor, Flex Wheeler's up there, big arms, Paul Dillette, and the middleweight class. It's just a different level of muscle they have, and not even that, but the condition that those guys get in, the separation. That's what we don't talk about too. Is some guys can get really peeled. I was never able to get like skinless peeled.
Yeah,
probably because my own fault looking back on it, but some guys can get like that crazy thin skin genetically, right? What do we talk about? Like with Akeem Williams used to be the old knock, right? Guys that have right, and that sometimes there's certain genetic limitations, even with your skin tone, Ron, that go into this sport, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I had. I had that thin skin, a lot of grainy detail, but I didn't. I mean, I didn't have those big round. My arms were always shit. They never had that round, full look to them. My waist was never that narrow. I mean, we all did the best with what we could.
Yeah.
Let's go to the comments because we are live. We are live in vivo. That's how the world works now, Ron. Keep up. I'm trying for this run. Hearing a pro cyclist keeps from doing unhealthy things much lower than I would otherwise think. Sometimes they disclose it because I remember I talked to this Joe Palacios, the new guy, and I put him on the spot, but I think he'd already told his cycle on another podcast, but for some reason they're squeamish with me. I don't know if they see me as like the uncle or something. They don't want to. I don't know. But he said, well, I looked at the low end of what guys were doing and the high end, and I averaged it out, and I just take the average out of those. So he decided to do it. But I don't know if anyone really uses more than a few people. I doubt more than a few people go over like 4 or 5 grams of gear.
Jesus, really?
I mean, over. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of guys that do that at the pro level. Not that they have to, but because they think they need to. But I don't think anyone's doing 10, 15, was it Boston Lloyd did 13 grams for a little while?
Ron, that's insanity, bro. So let me ask you something, Ron. That Andreas music cycle, remember back that? What did you think about that when all that stuff went down? Because I never got a chance to answer that. Like when his cycle came out, when he passed away.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know if it was where did they get that cycle?
Yeah.
Where did they get it? I mean, this was pre-internet. It's not like he was on a message board posting his cycle anywhere. Did he leave it behind in a diary that was published in the newspapers? I don't understand where people got it. Like I've heard people say, I've seen a few different Dallas McCarver death cycles posted. Who in the world would know what Dallas was using except for Dallas? And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I don't think even Matt Jensen, his coach, knew, because I bet Matt was telling him this is what I think you should do. And I bet Dallas was using more because he's young and he's hungry to be the best bodybuilder in the world as quickly as possible. I would bet you good money he was using more than what Matt was comfortable with. So, yeah, the Munzer cycle, I think it was a work of fiction. I think a lot of these cycles that we see, they're fictional. They're just made up.
Yeah.
Unless if a pro comes out on a podcast says, yes, I use this and that, I go, okay, I guess he's telling the truth. But I've heard that some people for clout now, they'll go on and lie and say they're using a lot more just to seem like more hardcore or they're more like a tough guy. Like, it's a trend and
what's going on, man? Like, but we don't though, dude. We're older and we have hindsight, and I think we got out with our health somewhat not as bad as some of our friends.
Yeah. Right.
So I think we can look back and see what some of these young guys are doing. And like you want to tell them, bro, listen, man. But at the same time, if somebody would have said that to us when we were 25, 26, would we have listened?
No, of course not. I mean, that's the thing is young people are going to do what young people are going to do. And you can't tell them anything because we know it when you're 20 years old, 25, geez, even when I was 30, I thought I knew everything. And these older guys trying to tell me like, shut up, whatever, dude. Yeah, don't do that behind the neck press of 315. That's going to shut up. And then, I get my shoulder replaced. Yeah, most of them were completely accurate in what they were telling me. And I just didn't.
Yeah. 100%, man.
Now, I don't know if this is Christian Dookie. I don't know if he's being sarcastic here, but Kai and Ronnie were both phenomenal natural bodybuilders.
Yeah.
So here's amazing. The thing. If you don't believe Ronnie was natural for a long time, even into his early pro career, riddle me this, Batman. So Ronnie turned pro at 5'11" and about 215 pounds.
Yeah.
5'11", 215. That's not a massive guy. Because of his muscle shapes, and he still had these monstrous arms and everything, he looked a lot bigger. You probably would have guessed him a lot heavier. But point being, a few years later, that same height. So he turned pro at the end of 91. By the end of 90, he wins the Olympia for the first time in 98. He's like 250, 245, 250 on stage. A couple of years after that, he's 270. A couple of years after that, he's like 296. So if he had been on gear all along, how could he have made that progression? Same thing with Kai. Kai turned pro. I do believe he was natural. He won the universe.
Yes.
And I'm not vouching for the testing or anything, but I'm saying I do believe Kai was natural. Kai, you want to give him 5'8"? Want to be generous?
Yeah, 5'8"-ish, maybe 5'9" back in the day.
No, well, I'll just say 5'8". So I think he turned pro about 210 after being like a natural pro for several years in WNBF, and then decided IFBB was the way to go. And I remember him doing New York Pro the first time, and he did. I think he was like second call out. He didn't do very well. And then I saw him the next year. I don't know if he won the next year or he was like second or third, but he put on so much freaking size in 1 year. It was very obvious to me he must have been natural last year. And I was one of those people who like, nah, he's a freaking liar. He's not natural. Even though he was basically homeless.
Yeah.
His early career.
But when you train naturally like that, those guys like Ronnie and Kai, once you start taking stuff, magic really happens. Like Ronnie was just that genetic. Even when he was like natural, like he still was a freak, right? He wasn't like, Ronnie that we know. But if you saw a picture of him back then, you were like, holy shit, this is a crazy looking dude. And it's just all it takes is that little bit of magic that magic potion in that genetic body. It just was the perfect storm for everything to happen. And same with Kai and Phil Heath too, right, Ron? Yeah. Like when you see those pictures of Phil playing basketball, you look at the shoulders, the body, you're like, holy shit. And even his first few shows, you can see it. And I was at the USA the year he won, and it was so obvious, right? And he said he was on 500 mgs of test and some Deca for that show. Which it seems like insane, but when you think about his genetic capability, it doesn't, right? Because I remember even when I was get maybe 500 mgs of sauce and some A-bombs, just the fullness I would get, it was insanity. So I can imagine what Phil times 17 of me, right, would look like and feel, Yeah,
I mean, it's another thing that we don't talk about as much. It's not just the actual genetics as far as the muscle insertions and shape and all that, but there is a genetic component to how you respond to gear. Yeah. And some guys, just a little bit of gear, a very moderate amount, they blow the fuck up. Other people, unfortunately, could take all the drugs in the world, and you've known them. You talked about one. I remember a guy at Pasadena Gym. He was a wealthy guy. He was in his 40s. He had a couple businesses. He did very well. I can't remember the car. Let's put it this way. He made a good living. He was trying to be a pro bodybuilder, and he would get bulked up to like 300, 320 pounds, something like that. He was close to 6 foot, but he just looked like a big bloated sack of shit. It was like all acne and puffiness, and he would diet down, and he had a waist. His hips were this wide. He had shit on. I mean, it was an awful, awful physique. It looked nothing like a pro, but he was taking plenty of drugs, and he could afford all the best drugs as much as he wanted. I'm sure, whatever food. He had all the resources available to him except the genetics. And the drugs, he got more side effects out of them than anything. Because when he would diet down, he would be like 230, 225 or 230, and shadow of that big bloated mess. But it's still not remotely what you expect to see in terms of muscle mass based on how much I knew this guy was. Because we all talked. It was like a similar situation to you. We all bought our drugs from the same one or two guys, depending on who had stuff we needed at the time. So it was a very close-knit community at that gym in Pasadena. We all competed. We all knew what everyone was using. We'd sometimes all chip in and buy like a big batch of shit together, to try to save some money.
Yes.
If we buy like 10 bottles instead of 3, can you give us 60 instead of $80? We were bargaining and stuff. So yeah, let's keep going.
Good old days, man. That's the good old days.
Italian song with Edgar Fletcher. Yeah.
But you do it too, right? When you see guys that like don't have the genetics for this and they take a bunch of stuff, you can see it in their skin and their look is just a bloated, puffy look to them. Like it's not like pretty, it's not beautiful, it's just a bloated, puffy look, right? And then, like, dude, like, I've seen guys to where they just do a little bit of stuff, and like you see them a week later, you're like, you just shake your head, like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, their bodies just morph into something else, right? And two, even like you said with the muscle insertions, that's important too. But you got to be just mentally built for this because that's a big portion. You got to be all in, right? But going back to what we're talking about, remember the anabolic reference guide? That was like the Bible back in the day, like of what we passed that book around so much just to learn what it was. Everybody read. We all read that book.
Yeah. Well, I want to correct you, Christian. Edgar Fletcher should definitely be a pro. Palumbo, based on the mass and the condition, yes, he should be a pro, even though his structure was awful. Me, no. I mean, I've seen pros that are worse than me, but they're rare. They're very rare. It's people that lucked out at some master show where like nobody else showed up.
Yeah.
There's a few pros I know that I did beat them, or I could have beaten them, but no, I don't deserve a pro. I'm not like a pro. If you threw me on a pro stage, even at my best, I would have gotten destroyed. So I think he's being sarcastic anyway. It's hard to tell. Kalyan, thank you for the 40 rupees. That's the form of payment they have in
That's
India.
awesome, man.
Kitty H, you got a U.S.-centric mindset. Yes, I do. I'm an ugly American. In the U.K., steroids are legal for personal use.
Are they?
Yeah, I think Canada is the same way.
No kidding.
Yeah, well, the U.S. is behind. I don't brag on America too much anymore. If anyone's
That's
noticed.
insane, man. You know what I mean?
Well, think about that. So it's legal to have them, but it's illegal to sell them.
But you know, it's funny too. Like nowadays, TRT is so normalized, right? To where back in the even just you could even mention if you saw a vein on a woman, you would say steroids. I remember seeing Martina Navratilova on the cover of Sports Illustrated one year after she won because I was in the muscle then, right? It's like 87.
Yep.
And you know how Martina Navratilova looked. She wasn't big, but just that vein, people are like, oh, steroids, oh, that's gross. It's just the mindset of people back then is now changed as far as like acceptance, and kids are just now just getting on gear, right? Like there's no kind of like progression. Remember we did teen shows, we did a novice show, we did an open show, we trained for a few years before we hopped on stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like we read a little bit about it. We did some bro science, but it wasn't like you didn't throw the kitchen sink in on that very first one. Like you learned your body a little bit, man. So it's just kind of like the wild, wild west living now.
Well, it's a faster world, and I think social media has made things so fast. All these kids are on TikTok and Instagram. So do they want to wait 5, 6, 10 years to have a physique that they can post? Here's me doing body, here's me benching, and look at me flexing. Or do they want to look like that in a month or two if they think it's possible? Of course, they're going to, and I'm not putting them down because if I was an 18, 20-year-old kid now, I'd probably be exactly the same way they are.
Yeah.
I'd be filming every freaking set. I don't know if I'd have the broccoli hair. I don't know if my hair would have done that. But I probably would have hopped on the trend and stuff. It's just I didn't know that steroids existed when I started training. I didn't know that I couldn't get bigger or stronger unless I used steroids. So I got bigger and stronger.
Right.
I had 13, 14 years of training naturally before I hopped on the gear. And, not to say that I became some monster, but I mean, that foundation, I'm glad I had that foundation because people are going to argue, you're not off, you're on TRT. Okay, whatever. But the people these kids that start off immediately on gear and they build all that muscle on gear, the day they come off gear, it's going to be like a balloon that someone stuck a pin in.
Yeah. And, I'm kind of glad though, dude, that whole like natural bodybuilding thing and the kind of like it was kind of secretive when we came up was there. It kind of kept us a little bit innocent, a little bit, because the pros I never read about steroids or talked about that when I was like 87, 88. You know what I mean? We never read about that. There were a few articles in there, but like I never thought like Rich Gaspari was taking like gear, right? I never knew that. But I will say this: I did work out at the gym with Jim Momini up in Toledo. Awesome guy, super great guy. And seeing the actual pro, what he went through, and like he'd be very, very honest about what he took, and it was nothing. And like Jimmy would morph from like, I want to say like short, like real big, to like suck down granite like in a matter of months. But he would suffer, and it was just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It was never a lot, right? And he always like would tell us guys in the gym, like, it's not about that much. Like there was a few nut cases that were doing all the crazy shit, but for most of us, it was like, you don't really need to do all that. So I'm glad I had someone there that kind of guided me a little bit in a way to where I didn't just get stupid, but also it was expensive back then, dude. That shit was stepped on, right? Like I'm sure maybe a $2 amp of primo test, and I was paying 17 for 19 for the such red ejects. Yeah. You know what I mean? God forbid, like the Syntex Anadraw for like $300. I couldn't afford that. You know what I mean? We went halves on some Anavar one time. Me and a friend of mine, so we couldn't afford, 100 of them. So
even back then, I bet it was $3 a pill.
Yes, that was a dab, right? And so it's just the affordability now makes that thing too. And it is too, Ryan. You know what? It does feel good to be jacked and big. We gotta admit that, like having your shoulders all like kind of like filled out and got that pump. And listen, we've got to do a room now. People don't look anymore, right? So it was always kind of cool when we like at our biggest, you would walk in and but it's intoxicating. So I get it that size and fullness is intoxicating. And even when you're lean like that and you look in the mirror and you're pinching your skin, it's a hell of a feeling. It's like it's a drug almost.
Oh, I miss it all the time. But
bro,
a guy in my area, Craig Licker, he passed away a couple weeks ago. 57. I think he was 57. I mean, and don't tell me it wasn't the gear. Don't tell me he wouldn't have lived to 70 or 80 or who else. Don't tell me the gear had nothing to do with it. It was a heart attack. I know he was waiting for a kidney transplant. He had lost a lot of body weight, and I'd rather live than be a big. Yeah. I think if either of us had ever been like pro size and you were closer to it than I was, it probably would be harder to do what we've done to go the healthier route and downsize.
Oh, for sure.
Never having been 250, 270 ripped, it's not that big a deal to go from 220 ripped to like 210, 212 pretty lean.
Yeah.
It's just especially if you can live. Let's get some more questions. U.S. centric mind. He was 18 years old, 150, never used drugs, muscles, quit drinking booze many years ago. 65 years old. God bless you. You're still here, Bougie.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
I wonder if bougie is
awesome.
on the phrase bougie.
65. God bless him. That's a goal. That's a nice goal, man.
Here we go. Cayenne's listing some people who never turned pro. I wouldn't say Palumbo had a physique on par with Edgar and Matt were amazing. I mean,
Edgar and Matt, Roy Liedermeyer on. I think Roy Liedermeyer, if Roy Liedermeyer, Mendenhall, we had Parrish and Haney, that would have been a beautiful quartet of physiques, man.
They were all,
classic
shape.
Oh,
like classic physique, but this was
beautiful.
We're talking about 40 years ago.
And that was probably just a little bit of primo and test. Nothing crazy either back then.
I can't remember. I got Lee Haney to sort of talk about what guys he wouldn't say what he used, but he said, back then guys would use this and that. But then you'll have guys who say, no, they were full of shit. They're just trying to lowball it and make us think they were, they trained harder than us and they were more dedicated than us. And they were actually on just as much drugs as guys say. I don't think so, because you see Haney had a 31-inch waist at 255 pounds at his last Olympia. There's no way somebody could maintain a midsection like Haney did, or like, a lot of these guys had pretty tight, flat midsections. Even Gaspari, who was a thicker, shorter guy, he didn't have a gut. He had a very flat midsection. Yeah. When you're on all that gear and you're eating all that food and the insulin, the GH, you can't have a very small midsection. It's just not possible.
And again, too, no scar tissue, no lumps and bumps in the delts or the calves or the shoulders. They had striated delts. Mike Christian's delts were striated. It was just, I think if they were doing so much, man, it would just be a different look, right? It would have just been, I think they would have been a lot further advanced than they were, right? You did see those, those Chris Dickerson growth hormone elbows every now and then, a certain guy, certain guys, right?
Point the elbow.
But
But I mean, like, I remember. I wish I could put it up. There's a picture of Samir Benoot. He wasn't hitting the side tricep shot. He was like holding his tricep out to the side, and there was like 1,000 cross striation hatches all up and down that tricep. Rolly had that too. I want to address this. So Leo says, I don't have the genetics, but I still enjoy taking gear. I don't see a problem. If you're an adult, you could do whatever. You could do coke, heroin, crack, steroids. Even if, as long as you're monitoring your health. But you know what? You don't have to monitor your health either. Your body is your body. You want to keep it very healthy and be a vegan or whatever, or do yoga, or you want to be a bodybuilder and lift all the weights in the world and eat 10,000 calories a day and do all the drugs. It's your body. You're an adult. These are all your decisions. My personal philosophy with PEDs is use the minimal amount that you can get away with using to achieve the look that you're satisfied with, and monitor your health. Blood work, a minimum of twice a year. I have to do it every 10 weeks through my TRT clinic. So I do it like 5 times, blood work 5 times a year. I have a cardiologist appointment coming up in 3 weeks where they hook me up to do the ultrasound. I've had an EKG already this year for my heart. The stress test where they hook up all the electrodes and they have you run your ass on a treadmill and they raise it up to like this angle, and and calcium scores. There's a safer way. There's no safe way to do anything beyond TRT. Anything beyond that, you're starting to take a little bit of risk. You can mitigate that risk by using the smallest amount possible. And I say that even if you're trying to get big, if you start off on all these high amounts, wasting money, but maybe you have so much money that you don't care. But why would you be taking more than you need to and wasting drugs, basically, when we all know that over time, you're going to need more drugs to get the same result anyway.
Yeah.
You might start these pros. I'm sure a lot of them started off on more moderate doses. And as time went on, as they got bigger and they heard what other guys were using, the doses got higher and higher. So once they're competing at the Olympia, the Arnold Classic level, they're probably not using what they were taking back in the, my first novice show level. But still, minimal amount you can get away with is the way to go as far as I'm concerned.
But it's funny, man. Back in the day, you always thought that guys in LA had these exotic drugs that like nobody else had access to, like just great, crazy stuff. Or guys in Boston, New York, you guys had like special stuff that nobody else had, and we had shit, Mexican shit from Ohio. So it's just weird how with no social media, how just you viewed other things. Listen, there was a time that I thought, man, if I got some growth hormone, that's just all I need, man. Like, or just go to Kuwait. They got the secret formula in Kuwait, right? That's where everything happens. But growth was seen as this holy grail that guys just kind of. Well, I think when Dorian morphed from '92 to '93, I think there was a lot of people in our gym were talking about like, wait, he finally got some growth, but it just. And you knew a few guys who had some of that human troll back in the day, the real good shit. But it had this magic lure to it, right? But that you thought would just change your body.
Well, to be fair, I think it does do wondrous things for some people. I remember Brandon Curry's probably the best example. So he got scouted at the 2016 Olympia by the Camel Crew.
Mm.
They were talking with the show, and shortly after he took off to Kuwait, and he stayed there for months, and he put on like 25 pounds of new muscle. And he never came out exactly said, well, I was taking 2 or 3 times and I was getting, he never came out and said I was using GH and IGF-1, but he did say I was doing things I could never afford to do on my own back in the US.
Yeah.
He had like 4 kids. He still does.
Oh yeah.
Sure. He couldn't afford to use all these products. And over in Kuwait, money was no object. Whatever you want, they'll give you. So yeah.
And you see what happened with Brandon Ron. His genetic ability, like he just morphed into literally Mr. Olympia, right? Like his body just sucked up those goodies. And I'm sure being in a less stressful environment, just to eat, sleep, train. Listen, if you're eat, sleep, training, and taking that magic potion. Like it's just the sky's the limit. And for Brandon, those genetically gifted guys, it just works.
Just John Jewett didn't use Tren, but the Mr. Olympia of Classic Physique didn't either. Tren isn't needed. Yeah, I don't know. Tren has become such a magical, mythical drug. I think people think you can rub the bottle and make 3 wishes, like a genie bottle now. I mean, I've used plenty of Tren in the past, and sure, it does give you like a harder look.
Yeah.
I put up a picture the last time I used Tren on my timeline. It was 3 years ago. That's the last time I used Tren. So the difference, just to point out the different look. Now you see my whole timeline. Blah, blah, blah. And it's not magical, but it does give you a little bit of a different look. But
it does.
I don't find. Oh, okay. It was only on my Instagram. Never mind, Ron. Never mind. No, wait. Yeah. All right. It's not that important. But I'm gonna stop sharing. Yeah, it's not that important. Yeah, it's a great drug, but I find for me a lot of the side effects, the psychological side effects,
dude,
it really made me like a nut job. I was like paranoid. I was angry, sad. I mean, I was on this emotional roller coaster.
Mentally, it destroyed me. Like it. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. Like about like 400 megs of Trend E was my sweet point, and that shit, man. Like it turned me. It just turned me person into like a bad person. Like my thoughts were just bad, and I was emotional and just not. You just didn't feel right, but you felt awesome in the gym.
Oh, yeah, I mean the training was it made you want to train like a freaking. You never wanted to stop training. The pumps were insane. You were getting stronger all the time. But yeah, that's so. Let's say you're in the gym 2 hours a day. The other 22 hours a day, you were freaking miserable. Either you were an asshole or you were like a crybaby. There was like no middle ground for me.
No, and listen, my kidneys probably like aren't thanking me now anyway for that, right? Because it just wasn't great for your kidneys.
Yeah. So someone says hypersponge gear is a real thing. I know someone takes grams of gear, looks natural after 5 years. And so, and I bet you that guy, let's say he's on 5 grams of gear a week, which, you know, maybe I'm highballing it. I bet he thinks the people who look better than him must be on 10 grams of gear.
Yeah.
Anybody who looks, that's the ego thing. That's the male ego. If somebody looks better than me, there's got to be an excuse. There's got to be a reason. It can't be my fault. It can't be something that either is my fault that I'm doing or not doing, or it's the genetic luck of the draw. It's very hard to accept that someone's just better than you. You know?
When you're like in it, like hardcore everyday meathead, like we're meatheads, but like we're kind of like, you know, on the outside looking in meatheads. When you're in that everyday grind, you don't see other people. You see them as like, what's he doing? Well, if I'm doing more of this, if he's doing this, I can do this. So it's just, you're always kind of checking the other guy out, right? You're always looking at the other dude, kind of, when you go to another gym or somebody comes to your gym that's kind of big, and your first thing you check them out, you're like, it's just such an ego trip, bro. That it's just crazy looking back at it now. Like, you're like, holy shit, man, what the hell? But it was a blast.
You gotta, this has to sound familiar to you. Every time a new bodybuilder has come to the gym I've been at for a while, everyone's like, me and every other bodybuilder are like, who's this freaking asshole? Especially if they look really good. And then every single time that's ever happened to me, eventually that becomes like my best buddy.
Yeah.
We're talking, he's actually really cool. Oh, you want to train together? Whatever.
But right away, dude, it's like right away. Like, you're just like, oh, look at that dude. Like, yeah, he's probably like fucking taking all kinds of shit. Look at him. You know what I mean? No, it's just not that the case at all.
Ooh. Yeah, this is the logo I came up with. This is the working logo right now.
That's badass, dude. I like that.
Yeah, meathead's got the flexing arm. It's AI design, whatever. But yeah, that's going to be me and Mike, and Lee Priest is going to be on the first episode. This is going to kick off a week from tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We're going to do it. You know, I want to make sure me and Mike could be on every show, so we're reserving our Wednesday nights. Appreciate it, Mike.
Yes, sir.
We'll be live every Wednesday night at 7, starting next Wednesday. I got a long list of people who I've been talking to. It's going to be different people every week.
That's freaking awesome.
It'd be awesome if I could get Lee Priest every week, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh my God, yes.
And to reiterate, part of the reason I quit Muscle Discord, a big part was because I said, I need to get my own. Everyone's got a fucking panel podcast. Fuad's had this great one for years now. John Olivia, that used to be on the MD, the Muscle Talk, he's got one. There's Fit Nation. There's a whole bunch of them. Muscle Insight. There's a lot of really good ones. And I know it's a lot of the same people go on all these different podcasts. I know so many people, and it was ridiculous for me not to have my own panel podcast and to be going on others and not have one. So anyway, guys.
You've been in the game. Listen, man, you've been in the game long enough too, man, that where everybody knows you. Like you like to do when you go to expos or shows, like everybody knows around here. So it's only fitting. You know what I'm saying? And listen, I'm not trying to like dog dude out, but negativity sells to a point, right? It's just sometimes you just got to be like, all right, man, listen, let's just move on. I get it, blah, blah, blah. But you can't alienate the sport, right? When you have a platform like this, like you guys get to talk to the entire freaking world. He can talk to people in Indonesia, but you're spreading bullshit. You know what I mean? Just like bullshit, just picking fights with people. Like it's cool to a point. It does sell. And as a fan, it's entertaining to a point. But like just sometimes you just got to switch it up and do something positive, man. Because listen, Italy's coming up. We're 6 weeks off from Olympia. Samson looked like he just knocked everybody out right now. There's so much to talk about other than Bob's suits, right? Like, you know what I mean? Bob's Bob, man. Like, it is what it is, man. People got to just come. Sometimes he got to get off the internet, man. Look at that dude.
Dude, I just had to look at this one more time. Oh, you're a Simpson. See, you're either if you say something nice about a guy, you're a fanboy. If you say something mean, you're not nice, you're a hater. It's like no in between. Can't you just be a fan of the sport and appreciate things?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see this guy shredded. I want to see him. I think he's gonna. I know we're totally switching gears, but we're almost done. I think he's gonna get in shape early, and then eat into the show, fill up.
Bro.
So we're going to see a version of him I believe we've never seen before, and I'm here for it.
And what's tripping out with me, like, look at his hamstrings. Look on the right leg, that hamstring's dug out. Like, I think what it is too, though, bro. It's just time in the gym, muscle maturity. That muscle maturity is starting to set in. And we always said that once that maturity sets in with Samson, he's going to be a real problem, right? Now I'm hoping. Like I'm a short dude. I love Hottie, the short guys, but I'd love to see Samson and Andrew at their best going at it just because they're so big. And if the judges could, just for shits and giggles, like a Samson, Andrew, and Neckzilla comparison. Oof. And a Nick and Neckzilla. Just listen, man, make that shit entertaining. Yeah, you're judging the show. And if we got to be up to 4 o'clock in the freaking morning, let's just make it entertaining shit. And just see that would just drive the crowd would go bananas seeing that comparison.
Oof. Someone asked how tall you were because they said you looked enormous for 192.
Oh, you're the best. I'm like 5'6" now. I think I was like 5'7" at one point, but I've measured myself. I'm 5'6" now.
I hate to tell you guys out there, youngsters, but you're not going to get any taller. You're going to get shorter.
No.
I knew an old guy, a friend, one of my wife's friends. The dad was like, he was almost 90 when he passed, but he had been 6'1" as a young man, or so he said. But by the time I met him, and he's probably about 80 when I met him, he was down to like 5'9", 5'10".
Oh, so shit, man.
Like 4 or 5 inches in height. Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm going to be like a hobbit if I live to be 80.
Keep hanging from your feet at the gym, right?
Yeah, I got that thing, the thing you put upside down in the other room. I never use it.
The inversion table?
Yeah.
Where all the blood goes into your head and everything? Oof.
Yeah. You know what I did? Well, and then I hung upside down. It's awesome.
I have one that I used to use, and now it's like a bunch of clothes are hanging on it. So
yeah, that's what
most people use treadmills in the world are used for, is to put clothes on.
Not for me, though. I use my treadmill.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Do we have any last questions? Samson, yeah. I totally agree with you. All right, we're going to take off. Mike's been very generous. So Giles and I are going to do a preview of the Italy Pro Show tomorrow, guys. So leave your notifications on. We're not doing it live, but it'll be posted by late morning, early afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. and we're gonna have a lot of fun. It's gonna be a great show. Geez, the list of people. Urs Kolchinsky, Quentin Uria, Sergio Oliva Jr., Mark Hector, Amir Omaragic, William Martins, Tim Budesheim, Louis Breed, Theo Leguerre, and there's 24 guys on the list in open.
Oh my God, that's a hell of a show, bro. That's a good show.
And it's on Sunday, just so you guys know. It's not Saturday. Most of these European shows are on a Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah. So you might have to skip church that day. I don't know. Anyway. All right, man. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yes, Ron, loved it.
And guys, if you're watching the replay, you didn't get a chance to say anything in the chat, drop some comments below. Just drop some comments below anyway. I respond to each and every single one, even if you're calling me a hobbit or an incel or whatever. Go ahead. I'm here for it. It's good for the algorithm. So, Mike Cox and Ron Harris, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.